Now, welcome everybody. This is Microsoft 365 Platform Community Call. It is Tuesday, November. It's October 18th. And my name is Vesa Juvonen, and I'm a product manager in the Microsoft 365 platform areas. Today, we will have the typical slides and typical intros on how do we get started and what are the assets which are available, and let's continue having discussions in the chat during that time. That's always one of the big benefits of this course as well. And then we'll have the group photo. And after that, we'll have two demos. So Nieri, and I'm pronouncing your name in the wrong way, I do apologize, is going to talk about the introduction to Microsoft Graph Search API, so what's available in there. Thank you for that, and looking forward on that. And then Aisha Past is going to talk about building your first command bot in C# for Microsoft Teams with Teams Toolkit and Visual Studio. Now, Carrie did the similar kind of storyline. Was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? But that was not with C#, because now we actually have the Visual Microsoft Teams Toolkit also in Visual Studio. So the experience is a bit different, and you can write stuff in C#, which is pretty cool for those who are familiar with C#, of course. Now, let's go through some of the typical slides and clarifications, what we have here. So first of all, we have two different YouTube channels. We have the developer video channel, where we have, in quotes, official videos coming from marketing cloud advocates. And then we have the community YouTube channel, where we have all of our community call recordings, demos, and a lot of other stuff in that channel as well. So there's historical reasons why we have to do this. Don't worry about it. Subscribe to both of them. That is the right way of approaching. We have a lot of open source assets available in multiple GitHub organizations, but as it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample for you, we actually started creating sample galleries, and then we created our unified sample gallery, which is the first URL in the sample galleries. But if you're looking into specifically, for example, team samples or SPFX samples, you can absolutely go to those other URLs as well, or script samples and so on. If you're wondering that there's too many URLs to remember, and luckily that is not the case, all of these are available from AKMS M365 community URL, from where you can find even more additional assets for you to get started on Microsoft 365. Now, we do have quite a few community calls, and just to recap on that one as well, we have this Tuesday one, which is the one where we always have Microsoft presenters happening every single Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Then we have a few monthly calls, Adaptive Card, Microsoft Identity Platform, Office Add-ins, and Power Platform call. Power Platform call is, by the way, happening this Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, if I remember correctly. David can actually remind me on that one on the chat. And then we have the Thursday series, which is happening 7 a.m. Pacific time on every single Thursday. It's either Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call or Viva Connection and SharePoint favorite community calls. And mainly that we see community demos in those calls. Now, we have a lot of assets available for getting started in Microsoft 365 development. First of all, on the developer program, a developer program is once again enabled. So it is available for you to subscribe to new tenants through that channel. There was some technical challenges why it was disabled for a few weeks, but that has been now enabled back on since last week. We also have a lot of material available from Microsoft Learn, which are all free for you to get access and to start learning how to do extensibility in Microsoft 365. Now, we also have two different podcasts. So we have the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast hosted by Jeremy Thake and Paul Scheffelin. M365devpodcast.com is the address for that one. And then we have, right now in this week, they had Anup Tati talking about the Viva Connection ACE development, so adaptive card extension development in that show. And then we have the PMP Weekly show, which is happening, surprise, surprise, every single week as well. The podcast or the video is getting published every single Tuesday. And this week we had Paolo Pialorsi talking about his latest contributions in open source across the multiple different areas, and a lot of other discussions as well. That one is hosted by me and Waldek Mastercards. Now, we do have that unified sample gallery available, which we already mentioned. I should actually double check the number. We are getting all the time a lot of new samples available on that gallery. And it is the easiest way to find a relevant starting point for you if you're building anything for Microsoft Teams, Bot Framework, SharePoint Framework, script samples, and all of that is available from this one centralized location, rather than trying to find those samples across the GitHub, because that might be a bit confusing. So that's a really good URL to remember. Now, as to find a sample, you might be thinking, okay, what now? How would I actually start using the sample? Or what if I would want to contribute on the sample? I'm finding a small typo or something else. That's why we have our Sharing is Caring initiative. And I will let David Warner to talk about what this is all about.
Excellent. Thank you,
how's LA? How's LA?
LA is warm today. It is. I would trade for cold weather with anyone. Yeah, absolutely. So as Vesa mentioned, we have a plethora, I've said it again, a plethora of samples, over 1,100. How does that happen? It's not magic. It's not little elves or Oompa Loompas. It is by all of you. And you may be wondering, if you're new to the community, well, I want to be in that group, and you absolutely can. But there are GitHub landscape, that GitHub galaxy that Vesa's talking about can be a little bit hard to navigate. You don't want to get lost in space. So Sharing is Caring is a program that's been set up to provide you hands-on guidance. And what does that mean? It means that we're going to join in live sessions together. These are safe space opportunities for you to ask any and all questions that you'd like. They're not recorded, so you don't have to be like, oh, is my question going to get recorded and everybody going to hear? Not at all. You don't got to worry about it. We're there to learn together, and we're going to take the steps together. And we've got a variety of topics. We're starting to get everything scheduled again now that we've come out of some busy seasons for us. And as you all may have seen last week in Ignite, Power Pages went GA. So Hugo Bernier is a little schoolboy, and he is going to be setting up another Sharing is Caring two-parter for Power Pages. And we absolutely want to invite everyone to that. So keep an eye on it. We're also going to be creating some videos because I know everybody's busy. We want to share the goodness that has come from these Sharing is Caring program sessions. And we're going to start creating some videos on demand for you to be able to get whenever is convenient for you. Don't hesitate to keep an eye out for those new events being scheduled, ak.ms/sharing is caring. Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Helsinki is catching the ball, and let's continue. This is pretty wild when I think about technology enables us to do this worldwide. It's super, super cool. Now, on the upcoming week, we also have a special App Camp event. This is an online event happening on October 20th. So that's on Thursday. Today is Tuesday, unless I'm completely mistaken. So if you go to the AKMS Teams App Camp, there's more details on how to register or download the invite for that one. That's a 1-hour event hosted by Bob German and a few other cloud advocates. I'm watching here Aisha maybe nodding, maybe yes, excellent, and a few others. I think it was Bob and Aisha hosting that one, and they're going to cover the App Camp training material, which is an async self-training material available for you to take advantage anytime. So if the timing is bad for you on the October 20th, you can absolutely access the material later on. And I guess that event will be recorded as well, and shared within the YouTube channel. Now, then we move into the news. So as we can imagine, it was an Ignite week, and there's a lot of news. So we're not going to mention all of the news. I'm just going to call out a few of them because there was a lot of announcements last week. It was a bit of an overwhelming for a lot of us, for sure. A lot of great stuff on the Microsoft 365 developer side, going across the Microsoft Teams Graph APIs, Planner got the app-only APIs and all of that announced as well. So a lot of cool stuff on that side. Again, not going to mention all of those. On the other blog posts, which are mentioned in the top right corner, we also had tremendous amount of new announcements across the Microsoft Teams features, capabilities. The virtual avatars was mentioned, and that they're available. Maybe we'll start seeing them in this call as well. That would be pretty cool. And a lot of improvements and announcements on the Syntax and Microsoft Syntax, no longer SharePoint Syntax, and also on the Microsoft Viva side. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this because there were so many announcements. But please have a look on those if you're interested on checking out the latest what's happening within the Microsoft world. Now let's then move in what's happening or what's the latest within the Microsoft Teams developer documentation, and Vachit from India is going to cover this.
Yeah, thanks, Vesa. Hello, everyone. I would walk you through the platform and the documentation updates here. So let's start with the platform updates on the left side. So the first update is on live share canvas. So in conference rooms and classroom across the globe, whiteboards are the pivotal part of collaboration. In modern times, however, whiteboard is no longer enough. With numerous digital tools such as PowerPoint being the focal point of collaboration in modern era, it's essential to enable the same creative potential. To enable more seamless collaboration, Microsoft created PowerPoint Live, which has become instrumental to how people work in teams. Presenters can annotate over slides for everyone to see using pens, highlighters, and the laser pointers. Using live share canvas, your app can bring this power of PowerPoint live inking tool with the minimal efforts. So we have shared the documentation link here. We have also linked 2 samples in the documentation, which you can set up locally and play around with live share canvas. Now, let's move to the doc updates on the right side. So we got a lot of feedback on the Teams meeting accessibility module. So we are revamping the scene. So we revamped the content to ensure there's a clarity of steps and procedure. We explained different features, added requirements, and corrected technical process. Improved the discoverability of content by correcting the TOC structure and the page names. Please go and take a look. If you have anything to share, please share your feedback. So these were overall updates on the platform we have. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please post it on aka.ms Teams platform feedback. The link is available in the footer. You could also follow us on Twitter and configure to RSS feed to get regular platform updates. Thank you. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Vajid, on that one. And just to reinforce what Vajid was saying, please give us feedback if you have ideas or suggestions or something isn't working or there's a issue maybe in the documentation or something, please let us know. We are doing our best to make sure that everything is up to date, and we are trying to assume all of the guidance what you want to have, but having your input would be super valuable for us. Now, then let's move to the Toolkit mode section. So for those who are willing, you can now enable the video. I will set the Toolkit mode enabled, and I will share my screen, and then we'll capture the screen from here. 1 second, so we get a bit time on making things to work. Here we go. We have 50 seats in a room. I will put my camera on as well. Let's do the typical white one today. Few more rows if people are willing to put the video on. Let's not wait. Oh, I can see a few people doing waves. So this is good. Few more seats in the room with few more seats. Oh, there's the front row. Few more seats. Do we get it full rows? No, we are not yet recording. I will put the recording on. 1, 3, 2, 1, and let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining once again on the community call. Super cool. Really valuable to have you here, and thank you, Dot, waving on the background. Thanks, everybody. Awesome to have you on the call, and hopefully we'll see you in the in-person experiences this year as well. Thanks, everybody. Good. So let me go back in the slides and to introduce and actually recap what are the demos today. So Neri, and I do apologize, and probably a pronunciation is not precise, is going to cover the introduction of Microsoft Graph Search APIs, and please correct me on the right pronunciation there. And then Aisha is going to continue after that. But let's start with Neri's story around the Search APIs.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Vesa. I really appreciate it. So it's Jerry, but you were pretty close, so we'll let you get away with it. Really appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So, hi everyone. Today's call will be an introduction to the Microsoft Search API, but a focus on what's new in the Search API. I'm really excited to come to you today. My name is Jerry Grievous. I am a senior product manager working on Microsoft Search APIs and programmability. If you are familiar with Search APIs in general, no worries. If you are not familiar, it's okay. We're going to cover a lot of introductory and contextual material. And just to give you a lay of the land, my team really does think about supporting backend search experiences that power Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, and other M365 client experiences. However, if you don't want to leverage some of these experiences out of the box and you're looking for more customized flexibility via APIs, that's where the Microsoft Search API comes into play, and where we try to bring some of the same 1P search experiences to your fingertips in 3P. So, we particularly are gearing this presentation towards developers so you can learn how to support different applications and experiences. And so that's what I'll be covering today. I've included my contact information here, and I'll kind of go over all this information at the end just so you know where to find more resources. So as for an agenda, I want to kick off with, what is the Search API? How does it work? I then want to go into what's new. So some of the features that we recently released, and that's where I'll walk into really a deep dive into the API structure and a feature demo. And then we'll close out with some resources that you can take with you so that way you can explore more. And we're always available if you want to reach out and kind of grab time with us so that way you can learn a little bit more. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the big question, what is the Microsoft Search API? I feel like before we even really dive into the Search API itself, I think it's helpful to anchor ourselves on the search mission. So pretty much Microsoft Search connects you to the knowledge and expertise across your organization and beyond to help you be more productive, take action, and save time. We know that this is important because we spend so much of our working days just searching for important information. And that being said, there are actually many different options that you have today at Microsoft in order to leverage search for your scenarios, particularly if you want to leverage search APIs for building custom use cases. So I wanted to kind of give you a lay of the land in terms of what maybe some of the search APIs you might be familiar with today. So we can make this a little bit interactive, but feel free to use the raise hand or the reaction features in Teams to kind of show if you recognize any of the APIs that I am showing here on my screen. These are different types of search APIs that you might be familiar with today. And so really the kind of question that we come to is why another search API and why this Microsoft Search API. So what really differentiates the Search API from some of the APIs I just showed you is that it is a single search endpoint that allows you to search across all M365 workloads. And so you can see in a little diagram here, there are all these different workloads, clients, and experiences that you have access to in M365. And this endpoint is designed to be a centralized place for you to access data across as many of those campuses as possible. We also are working on exposing Microsoft Search Intelligence, and that's a really important part of what differentiates this API as well. So I see having this little green box here, what the endpoint looks like, and we'll kind of dive into how to understand this endpoint and what the API structure is a little bit later. But before we go into that, I did want to kind of talk a little bit about how does this Search API work. So this Microsoft Search API sits on Microsoft Graph. And if you are unfamiliar with the graph today, pretty much, the graph allows you to access a lot of different intelligence and data. So these are intelligence across different M365 experiences and clients, as well as data sources that can either come from your first-party experiences, either Exchange or kind of OneDrive or SharePoint resources, as well as any connected content that you bring in via, Microsoft Graph connectors. So with that being said, the Search API itself, it sits on Microsoft Graph, and pretty much the Graph universe contains the search index that is populated with all of that data from M365, and the Search API allows you to make sure that it's supporting your application using all of the information that's available in the graph. So I'll walk you through some of the experiences that we have enabled recently in the Search API that can help power your application, your use case, your experience. So that way it's a customized search capability. So a couple things to note before I talk a little bit more about some of the new features that we have available are the fact that the Search API, it really is workload agnostic. And so we'll walk through some of the different workloads that you have access to using the Search API. As you can see here, it is compatible with connectors, which is really great because it sits on Microsoft Graph and exposes the intelligence that's available in a lot of these M365 client experiences. So this is kind of something that is really, really powerful, given that you can use this API to make sure that you have really well-rounded experiences and are able to leverage the power of Graph. And we'll go through how this API is scoped by entity and produces and returns Graph entities itself, and make sure that you have Graph consistency through authorization and authentication. So what's really new in this Microsoft Search API that we're going to talk about today? Well, as I mentioned, it is workload agnostic, and we're working on growing the API to support more workloads as well as more capabilities. So here I have a list of some of the different workloads that we support right now. So for example, I have access to Outlook. There are the messages entity type in Outlook, the events in Calendar, external items and connected content through connectors, as well as your classic OneDrive and SharePoint entity types, which are your file types that I've listed here. But what I'll be walking you through today are some of the new features that we've recently enabled, allowing you to search Teams content. So this is specifically one-on-one chat messages and channel messages, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like soon. And then we also have new capabilities that allow you to search through certain answers types, and we're excited to show you what that looks like. So as we can see, we are really thinking about growing this API to support as much as it can, and we definitely look forward to showing you what that power really looks like. And so the features that we are going to show you, we've recently shipped, and so these features include the ability to search Teams messages. We also have shipped an ability to use powerful ranking to be able to rank your search results, and then also we support certain answers types, and all this documentation is live. What I've noted here in yellow is that there are some capabilities that we're exposing in this search API that are really unique to this API, and that's what differentiates it. So now that we have a little bit of context on what's new, I do want to walk through how the API is structured, so that way you have an understanding, if you are not already familiar with the search API, and kind of what the lay of the land is. So for the most basic search query request, you do need to provide an entity type, which is why I listed all of those different entity types along with their corresponding workloads. So pretty much what you need in a request, the search API endpoint, is the entity type, a query string, and any additional information like fields that you might want to get back in response, etc. And so this is kind of the syntax and the structure of how this works. You can see that there's an entity type that's specified here, and there's also a query string that's specified. And then I'll show you examples of how you can leverage fields too. So that is what goes into a request. And then now for response. So once you kind of take that request and submit it, what are some of the things that you can expect to get back in a response? Where you're going to get your classic search terms, which are broken down. It will take the query string, break it down into search terms. You're going to get hit containers, which will return mostly a single hit container, which will which is a container of results, and these results are the hits. And so in this hit container, you can see that a part of that talks to you about, just gives back to you the total, and also some more information on the results, and what results beyond what you might see in a response are also available for you to search through. And so as part of the hit container, there's several different hits that you get, as I mentioned. And so in each hit, there are unique aspects such as the hit ID, the rank, that tells you the actual score of the search result. It represents the position in the set, and then a summary, which is a fragment of text before and after the search term, and then the resource itself, which can contain a lot of different information and contains the graph entity that we can kind of specify based on how we structure our search request body. So now that we have an understanding about the basic anatomy and syntax of a request and response, I do invite you to, code alongside me if you'd like to, and open up Graph Explorer or Postman to kind of walk through some of the new features. No obligation to do this, but I did want to flash here that in Graph Explorer, you can see the exact samples of what I'm demoing today. So that way you can go ahead and check them out yourself. We also have a Postman collection that we continuously work to keep up to date. So that way you can go ahead and try and Postman as well. This search API endpoint is available in beta in V1, and the features that I'm going to be showing you today are available in beta. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to walk you through just conceptually some of the, just a few features first, and then we're going to go over to Graph Explorer so I can walk you through what this means. So here we're going to go through feature by feature and use very simplified examples. And so if you need to go back to any of these examples, Graph Explorer does have links to the documentation, and I'll also give you resources at the end so you can walk through it as well. So the first feature that I've mentioned is Teams message search. This allows search of one-on-one chat messages as well as channel messages, and also supports basic KQL. And so I will show you briefly in Graph Explorer what this looks like in a second. And then after that, we'll also look through, what this, so here is a little demo actually, so that way you can see basically what it looks like, and we'll kind of see what that looks like in Graph Explorer. And then there's another feature, XRank, which allows for powerful boosting of the dynamic rank of items without changing the terms in that query. And there's a bunch of different information about this that you can look up, and we'll walk through an example of this live. So let me transition out of the deck into Graph Explorer so we can dive into these examples together. So pretty much what I'm going to walk through you today is in Graph Explorer, if you're not already familiar with, it shows you a bunch of different sample queries, and we're going to scroll down to search because this is a search API endpoint, and we're going to go ahead and click here for beta. Now I'm going to go ahead and provide my desired query string, as we know based on what we looked at in the structure of an API request body, and we're going to go ahead and submit this. And so we are able to search one-on-one chat messages and channel messages. So what you get back in the response is what you'd expect. In each hit, the resource actually contains information about who sent that message, any information about the channel ID, the team ID, and the chat ID. So that way it's easily retrievable based on what you're able to kind of get in this response result. And so this is also kind of compatible with KQL. So if I wanted to see results that correspond to being delivered from a certain sender, I can also see that there are certain senders that might give me certain channel and chat messages, and I can see that in the response body here. Additionally, we have another feature, which you could see a sample for here, which is XRank. In this particular example, we're going to understand how the XRank feature works. It can get pretty complicated. There's a whole bunch of documentation that exists on how the XRank operator actually works and all the different parameters that you're going to need. But for the purposes of this example, we're actually going to look at pretty much what a basic XRank structure might look like. And we're going to use one of the parameters, which is called constant boost, which allows you to boost certain information that is relevant. So here, I just want to kind of show you a lay of the land. If I only search for, I'm a big fan of cats and dogs, so you're going to see a lot of animal-related examples here. And you'll notice that as I run this query, I included fields here. And this is what I was mentioning earlier, that in your request body, you can include certain fields that you want to get back. So I get my cat-related documents, which is great because I love cats, and I can see I get my title and my author here, and this is without XRank. But what if I was to go ahead and include XRank here? By default, this constant boost factor is set to 0. And so anything I put after XRank to boost certain strings, it's not going to have an effect because we have set that default. So I'm going to get the same order of my different cat documents here. However, if I set this boost to an integer above 0, I'm able to see that certain results might be boosted more than others because I have specified that. So give it a second to run. As we know, demos can be interesting. Okay, great. So I was able to boost the information so I can get another document that's related to just general information instead of all my cat results at first. So this is just a very simplified example of what you can expect with the XRank feature. There's extensive documentation available on how this works in depth, as well as more complex examples. So moving on, I do want to return to our slide. We have more features that are related to answers that we've rolled out as well. So as you know, in the admin portal, you can configure your answers. And today we allow search of answer types that are bookmarks and acronyms. So I want to walk you through the syntax of this so that way you understand. So as we know, bookmarks can help pin certain results and allow you to pretty much find important sites and tools. And so in this request body, you're able to use the entity type bookmark and then specify your query string. So I have a sample query string here, and in the response, you're going to get a bunch of information, but the key things that you're going to get back is the display name of the bookmark, the description of the bookmark, a URL that points to the bookmark, as well as a set of user-friendly categories that can be configured in the admin portal. And so I'll walk through what this looks like in a second. And then additionally, we allow you to search acronyms, and acronyms are abbreviations. And we have a bunch of different ways that you can actually specify in your query string how to actually get back the definition of an acronym, so to speak. So I'll kind of show you some of the really interesting words that you can leverage in order to figure out what abbreviation means. And so in the response, you're going to get back some similar information, the display name, the description, but you're also going to get back a stands for value that shows you what the abbreviation actually stands for, as well as the URL. So with that being said, let's go ahead and try this out together. So here in Graph Explorer, we're able to see that we can look at the sample for bookmark, which is great, amazing. We're going to go look at what a bookmark looks like. And so some of the same information I showed you in that sample response body is what you're going to get over here as soon as it loads. This is a classic demo experience here. But you can see it's going to return some of the same information that we saw earlier. So we're going to wait for that to come back to us. Okay, perfect, wonderful. Just in the nick of time. So we see the display name, we see the description. And so this is really, really helpful because you can actually configure certain categories. So maybe I wanted to call this category social, which I can configure in the admin portal, and then I can go ahead and see that category shown up here if I was to change that. Separately, there's acronyms. And so what's really interesting about acronyms is that you can actually use a bunch of different types of query string terms to help define it. So I said define MVP, the acronym MVP for me. And so it goes ahead and defines it, but I can also say expand MVP, and I'm able to see the same information here, or I could use MVP stands for or whatever. And so there's actually some documentation that can show you like what keywords, but what specific words within the query string you can use here to help make it easier for users to actually go ahead and find information about a particular abbreviation. So those are the features I wanted to demo for you today. I'm going to go back to my slide deck here so that way we can close out. So I wanted to thank you all for this opportunity to walk you through a little bit about what the Search API does, what it means, and what differentiates it from other APIs as well. I invite you to go to our short link, aka.ms/graph search query, to be able to try all of this out. This points you to the documentation as well as where to get started with Graph Explorer, as well as our Postman collection, so you can try it out in Postman. And feel free to reach out with any questions, or if you'd like additional information with more complex examples, or you just want to learn more. I really appreciate the time today. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And it's super excited on those features and great presentation. It's great work on the presentation as well. So thank you for joining on the call. Now, let's then move to Aisha Pash.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
Yep.
Okay.
I can see the screen. Take it away. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. So I prepared a little presentation today, but it's not the first slide. The first slide, even though I joined the community call before, I realized I didn't properly introduce myself before, so I'm just going to do that in this call. Hi, everyone. Probably met most of you in the community, but if I haven't met with you before, my name is Aisha Bash. I'm a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft and M365 advocacy. I'm based in Dubai, and I love building solutions, including Microsoft Graph, Microsoft Teams, and my background is also Azure. Before joining the advocacy, I was a premier field engineer at Microsoft, so I also worked a lot with Azure Functions, bots, and everything related with developer services on Azure pretty much. And I share a lot on Twitter and LinkedIn. If you're interested in connecting and sharing what we learn between each other, feel free to connect from the socials as well. Today, this is our agenda. First off, we will talk about Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio. I will show you how you can install the Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio. We already had a session about that, but if you missed that, don't worry about it. I'm just going to show you how you can get started with it. And then we will create the first command bot by using the Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio. And after that, we will run the bot on Teams. I will just walk you through the code a little bit, how we run the adaptive card and how basically the bot looks like on Visual Studio. And afterwards, we will just take a look at how we can implement the new comments and which part of the code we need to basically add more and so on. And then finally, I'll share the resources with you. If you're interested in the comment bots with Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code, last week, my colleague Gary actually demoed about comment bots for Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. You can check out his presentation in the community YouTube channel, and you will learn more how you can do the exact same thing on Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let's get started with the Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio. So I already launched the installer. If you know the Visual Studio, we need to first off install the Visual Studio 2022. And then if you haven't installed Teams Toolkit yet, then we actually have under the ASP.NET and web development, you will see Microsoft Teams development tools. If you install this as well, then you will get all the required debugging items and as well as creating Teams app tools with this. And once you install this, you are pretty much good to go. I already did that, and I'm just going to close this tab. Okay, I start running Visual Studio 2022, and the first thing we will do is creating a new project. Once you install the Microsoft Teams development tools, then when you search about Teams, you will see this item coming automatically, which is the project template. You can create a project for Microsoft Teams, just selecting this. And then next, it automatically did that in the previous one. So I just get back. Okay, let's say community call bot. And then I'll just create this. Now I need to choose what type of Teams app I want to create. We have notification bot, comment bot, tab, and messaging extension. We already talked about notification bots in the previous community calls, and we also show how to build tabs in the Visual Studio with the Teams Toolkit. Now, today we will just talk about the comment bot. First off, to start with, what is comment bot? It's actually the simple version of the bot. It is when you write something, bot replies back with a response. It's a pretty much hello world style bot. When you say hello, it says hi back, and you can edit the responses accordingly. It's really good practice if you have a bunch of FAQ questions, especially if you want to use Q&A Maker cognitive service in your bot, then comment bot is a really good place to start with the Teams app development. Let's create this, and then we will talk more what comment bot is. If you haven't tried this before, it already comes with some question type and not exactly question, but the comment to trigger the answer. And then it also provides you an answer with an adaptive card. It's also pretty good if you're starting from scratch. When you first run with F5, you will see some results, and afterwards you can deep dive in the code and understand how the code structure works. Okay, so the good thing is when you first start off, if you're new, there's a really good get started text file. It says that download and install ngrok. I don't know if you work with ngrok, but it is providing a tunneling resource. If your bot is not published yet, you will have to create this tunnel in the background. So you will have to run ngrok with HTTP 5130. I already have ngrok, and I need to run this before I prepare my bot for the dependencies. Let me just select ngrok, and if you're new to ngrok concept, you can actually search for help, and it will bring all the resources that you can call for the ngrok, all the types you can create a tunneling and so on. For us, we will just copy paste ngrok HTTP 5130, and then it should work for us. Okay, and it's free. I haven't paid anything. It's just running tunneling localhost 5130 for me, and then I will start preparing my bot. Okay, so it already says in here, when you run ngrok, just go ahead, right-click to the project, and then select Teams Toolkit and prepare Teams app dependencies. Let's do that. And it also says, sign in with Microsoft 365 account for the Teams organization you want to install the app to. Let's try to do that. I will right-click to the project, Teams Toolkit, and then prepare Teams app dependencies. Over here, it brings me M365 Advocates account I already have. This is the account I created as a demo account. If you don't want to test Teams app on your company account or school account, it's the best to just go to M365 Developer Program and create your own account to test out these style of apps. It's for free, and it creates you a sandbox to play around with a bunch of users and emails and so on. It's a really good development environment. I will continue with this, and I will let my bot prepared in my demo account. It automatically registers the bot in the Active Directory. So bot for provisioning is also done for us. We don't have to worry about going to Azure and creating bot registration and registering it, so on and so forth. All of the preparations are done for us through the Teams Toolkit. If you want to check out what is provisioned, you can take a look at the code. We will do that in a second. Let's just first try the app and see what it is providing. And lastly, it says over here that press F5 or select debug, start debugging. And don't forget, we have to say hello world to trigger the response. In here, we will just need to click this button, and you can choose the browser of your choice. I'm going to choose Microsoft Edge and click over here. This will automatically start running Teams on Microsoft Edge, and then it will come with already authorized user I chose in the preparation. You remember it's Ayça Baş at M365 Advocates account. Teams comes with a login user, and when it is ready, it will pop the app that we would like to run. We will just click on add, and then app will start running on our personal chat. If you want to change that, you can also just test this out in the channel or group chat, so on and so forth. Okay, Teams is already running, and our app is ready to test. Now we can add this and test it out. Here we already know what we will say to the bot as a trigger. It's hello world, but we don't know the outcome yet. I will just test it out first, and then I will show you where the response is coming from. And here we already have suggestions, which is a great thing. If you are starting from scratch, or even for your users, it's great to provide a suggestion so that they're not confused what to do in the first place. I will just send hello world and expect bot to respond back with a message. Hopefully adaptive card. Yeah. So we have an adaptive card here ready. It's saying, congratulations, your hello world bot is running. And it provides two links. One of the links will go to bot framework docs, and the other one is the Teams Toolkit docs, which is great. You can exactly do the same thing for your own questions and answers. And as I mentioned, this is really useful. Comment bot is really useful when it comes to using Q&A maker with it. If you have bunch of questions on your website, you can literally copy paste the link of your website. Q&A maker will generate automatically questions and answers for you. You will just need to use the Q&A maker API in your comment bot, and you're good to go. All right, let's deep dive in the code. This is pretty much what we can do so far because we didn't edit the bot. Let's understand where the response is coming from. First off, I'm just gonna close this. And so here we have comments and we have hello world comment handlers. Yes, this is the place we actually render the adaptive card, and we read the adaptive card as a response to the trigger. As you can see here, we have trigger patterns. This is where we define the trigger for our comment handler. Here we say hello world, but we can literally change this to ping. And then when we write ping, then bot will respond back with answers of the adaptive card. It is defined as hello world.json, and it stays under the resources over here. Let's quickly take a look at the JSON. So this is the adaptive card template we're using. We literally have title, description, which is defined as body, and we have 2 buttons over here. But if you want to create your own adaptive card, and if you don't want to write by hand manually, you can just go to adaptivecards.io, and there's also a designer. You can drag and drop buttons and descriptions. You can literally build your own adaptive card. And the only thing you will need to do is just copy paste of the JSON file over here. And then the handler will mainly read your own adaptive card when you define it over here. Once we trigger the comment bot with hello world, let's scroll back, down, and here is the handle comment async. This is the part that we handle the comment. And as you see, you're actually logging the message of the user. A message, that text in here is user's message, which is hello world. I already wrote hello world, and it is logged by the bot, our code. And after that, once we are done logging, we will just read the adaptive card template, which is the template we defined on top over here, a hello world card, and it should be defined. Adaptive card file path. Yeah, it's defined over here. Adaptive card template, and then render the card content. And we're able to fill the card content by ourselves. That means that if you want to reuse the same adaptive card template, hello world card.json, the only thing you need to do is just creating multiple models like title and the body, and you can give different responses to the different questions. In here it says title, your hello world bot is running, but then by defining a new trigger on top, you can literally just have a new model. By using the same adaptive card, you can just give another response to the user. It means that if you have, let's say, hundreds of different answers to hundreds of different questions, you don't have to create different adaptive cards for each and every one of them. You can literally pass and render the same adaptive card by just defining the parameters. And we build the attachment. It's the Microsoft Card Adaptive. And this is a classic way of calling the adaptive card. And then we will just send the response. If I need to walk you through the rest of the code, we actually have .fx file, which we have the states of the user. When we right-click to the bot and go to Teams Toolkit and prepare Teams app dependencies, it literally creates this local.user data, which includes all of the Active Directory and the bot provisioning information about my bot. And if you delete this, you will have to regenerate and prepare the dependencies from scratch. It's important because if you want to remove the bot and test it out as from scratch, like incognito, you will have to delete this and test it out again. Let's close the comments because we know hello world comment handlers, yes, already. We have the bot controller over here, which has 2 logs. We are keeping the conversation and the bot. Pretty much we are passing 2 of them. These 2 are quite important for us. And we also have model. If you want to design a new adaptive card and pass new information, let's say instead of title and body, you can pass username, user ID, user email address, and stuff, you will just have to create a new adaptive card and then the new model for your adaptive card. This is only used for filling out the information that we define in the adaptive card. As you can see, we use $sign and the title, $, curly bracket, and body. We can reuse the same card again. Finally, we have the templates. One template is for app package, which includes our manifest for teams. And then we have app resources. It is totally changeable if you want to define an image for your own Teams app. And if you want to change the manifest for your Teams app, you can do it from here. And we have Azure. This has all the provisioning biceps for bot service, identity, web app, and also we have Teams effects we need to handle. All these I'm just showing, but these are the parts that are already automated with Bicep. So when you run the app dependencies for your bot, when you right click to the bot and then Teams Toolkit and then prepare Teams app dependencies, these parts are all handled by the Teams Toolkit. You don't have to worry about setting up any of these. The only thing you have to do is just running ngrok in the right port and you're good to go. And this is pretty much it. So if you would like to add new command into your bot, you can add a new command class easily in here. And after that, you will have to either reuse the same adaptive card or create your own adaptive card. And you can add it in the resources. And we will need a model for your adaptive card. But after that, you're pretty much good to go and you can define your own resources. What I recommend highly, if you already practice command bot on Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, I highly recommend you to test out command bot with the Q&A maker. This will make a big difference in terms of defining thousands of questions and thousands of answers. It automatically gets all the questions and answers from an Excel file or website or some other place that you can copy paste the URL, and it will define all the questions and answers. You can just call the API in your command handler, and that's all. You can use the same adaptive card pretty much for thousands of questions and answers, and it will look pretty nice. I think this is all.
Excellent. That was a lot of stuff, Aisha. So really, really cool. And it's good to walk through this scenario as well. So now we have two different great demo videos, first from Gary and then from Aisha on the different scenarios. But one was for the Node.js and VS Code, and this one was Visual Studio Code IDE. So really cool to see that getting G8 as well. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Aisha. So we are pretty much good to go from this week. So just to recap, and Jerry had the great demo related on the introduction of Microsoft Graph Search APIs. And thank you for having that context and guiding people on the topic. Really, really cool stuff. And same for Aisha, a really, really cool, great demo on how to build those Microsoft Teams bots in the Visual Studio, which is the newest way of doing things in the Visual Studio Toolkit. So awesome stuff. Thank you both for the great demos. Now, let's jump in here. The recording will be available in 24 hours in the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. This is AKMS M365 videos. You should be subscribing that one, so you will get the notifications when there's new videos available. We do release at least one new video every single day, every single weekday, to be precise, not on weekends. So it is a great channel of getting to know how to do extensibility in Microsoft 365 with the community core recordings and community demos and a lot of other stuff as well. You can also follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev or M365 PMP. And the next Microsoft 365 platform call is on October 25th. We're already in the end of October. That's pretty amazing, at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So that is the Tuesday call every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Cool demos by Microsoft, by PMs or cloud advocates or other people. In general, all of our calls are available for downloading as a recurrent invite from AKMS M365/calls. And thank you, David, for sharing the links in the chat as well. Really, really awesome demos today. But that's all we're going to do today. So let's say a few minutes for everybody's time and close up the call. Thank you for joining, and thank you for awesome feedback and discussions throughout the call. It's been really active chat, which is exactly what we want to have in these calls. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.